Alright, today we're working on the Brother MFC-L3770cdw. We're returning back to this machine with a new no power fault condition. So this repair will cover this series of machines. In Australia, it uses the TN253BK toner series. So these are a series of cartridges that have the microchip on the side here. Let me just go see if I can find some other models. So the repair will also cover the DCP-L3510 CDW, CDN, CW series. It's the one that doesn't have the feeder. The L3750 CDW and the L3745 CDW. And the printer only version, which is the HL-L3230 CDW, the 3270 CDW as well. So in a previous video I made about this series of Brother printers not turning on, there is a reset procedure in that previous video. If you haven't watched that video yet, go watch it. It shows you the reset procedure to determine if your printer has a faulty supercapacitor, which is on the main board down here, or whether you have a blown up power board. And this is one of the power boards that belongs in these machines. This is what we're changing today, because this machine doesn't have a faulty supercapacitor. This machine has a blown up power board, and this is what I'm going to show how to change. Now I'm getting lots of reports from customers where the power board blows up. The customer will be sitting beside the machine will just be quiet, doing nothing, and then all of a sudden they'll just hear this sound come out of the printer, and then the printer will go completely dead, everything turns off. I think what's happening in some of these machines is there's one of two things happening. The circuit boards are either getting affected by mold growing inside the printers. We've just had 6 to 8 months of it just continuously raining here in Australia, and lots of homes are getting problems where we have a spell of rain and then it suddenly gets really hot, like 30-35 degrees, and with it being wet and the temperature going up, mold just comes out of everywhere and it grows everywhere. And mold will actually even grow inside your printer. And mold, being a living organism that has water in it, when it grows, especially if it's growing on the back of the circuit board, it grows and grows and grows. You can't see it because it's invisible, and it just short circuits out, and it takes the main fuses out on the circuit board and blows up the MOSFET that drive the main transformer. So that's one reason why they blow up. The other reason they're blowing up, I think, is due to rooftop solar. So if you live in a suburb that has a high concentration of rooftop solar, You may live in a house that has no rooftop solar, but your neighbours may have rooftop solar. And if your printer blows up between the hours of, say, 11 AM and 1 PM, and it's a high UV day, you'll get warnings on the news that we're having a high UV day. The line voltage that comes out of your power socket so the power coming out of your socket, instead of it being at the required 240 volts for Australia, if we get a sudden solar flare up, the line voltage can peak at 250 volts. And these circuit boards, as you can see, screen printed onto this circuit board, it's only rated at 200 volts. So we're going to find out. We're going to replace this board for this customer. We're going to send the machine back. If this replacement board blows up the same way and it corresponds to a report on the news that it's a high UV day, we'll know that that suburb has got a big problem with too much rooftop solar. And then we can lodge an official complaint with the electricity board, and they can monitor the situation, and they can pay for this printer to be repaired a second time, which we've done before with other customers. So alright, so I might find somewhere nice to work and get into it. Alright, so the first thing we've got to do to get into this repair is we have to pull the paper tray out and just set that aside. Next thing we've got to do is we've got to turn the printer over onto its roof. Now, with the printer turned over, we have to remove the printer's duplex unit, which is this bit here. So we take this screw out. We take this screw out. And we may have to take that screw out. Yep, I think we do. We don't lose this cover, obviously. And then the duplex unit simply lifts up, and you've got sliding notches over here and here. You lift it up and you simply slide it and pull it away, and that gives you access to the panel down here where the power supply lives. Alright, so we've got to get in and pull all the screws off that cover everything here, and we need to make sure we do not lose this plastic drive bit which goes into here. Goes into there. That's just fallen out while we're doing this. I'll just get some pliers because I don't want to let that drop down any further. So this part lives in here like so. This is obviously a new addition for this model of printer, as this was what drives the duplex unit, and they've obviously had a braking situation in the previous model. Yeah, so if you get a paper jam in the duplex unit, you can break teeth off this drive gear. Obviously this is here as a sacrificial thing, so that goes in there. Alright, so I just got to get off and pull the screws out here, up here, there, and that one there, and that one there. So I'll get into that. So this is a plastic type screw for screwing into plastic. Try not to lose it. Now this particular screw here is an earth strap screw. There is a lead here, right there, which connects to this as a giant earth plate. It has a metal screw in it, because you're not actually screwing into the plastic body with this, you're screwing into the metal plate. It has the tiny washer and the big washer and the earth strap there, which we've got to be careful not to break or to lose. Alright, so we've moved on to pulling that screw out, So these two screws at the back here, this plate may need to come off here, but I'm just getting into it this way on an angle with the screwdriver, which seems to be working okay. Alright, so we moved on to pulling that screw out. We're going to pull this screw out now. Now if you have a look over here, there is a screw that's coming out from the underside. So there is a screw that goes into this panel from the underside. So I'll have a look at that once that's all free, see what the deal with that is. Those screws. Alright, so it's become apparent at this stage that we need to get all the consumables that are inside the printer out. So this is the waste unit here, which gives us lots of grief with false messages. So we'll flip the printer over now and we'll just pull all of the consumables, the belt, the drums. The drums, when you pull them out, you need to get them into a dark place, like a cupboard. They cannot be pulled out in direct sunlight. And they cannot be left out on a table in normal daylight any longer than 10 minutes. They're called optical photoconductors for a reason, because they're sensitive to light and they get damaged by light. Alright, so drums are out, stored away in the dark. We pull the belts out. We remove the locking tab, which should have been pulled out during unboxing. We throw that away. We pull the waste unit out. Alright, so we've got the guts out of this printer. Alright, so we now got the guts out of this machine. We need to get this panel off here so we can get access to get everything out. This particular panel, you've just got to grab it and pull it, and it slides left, and then you can pull it out. So it has a little clip on here. That's what clips and locks it in, and you're just defeating that clip there to get that panel out. And then from this side we can now see that panel that we've got to get out there. There's this flat flexible cable running over the top of it. So we'll flip the printer over now, we'll get it back onto its head and see if we can get access to getting the power supply, which is under this panel here, out. Alright, we now got the printer back over on its head. We've got to get this lead out of the road, and then we can lift this panel up so that we can have a look inside. But I got a feeling that these screws up here, which are screwed from the underside, are going to be a bit of a problem. Yeah, it looks like the power supply is actually screwed onto, yeah, you can see there as we're picking this up and moving it around, the board underneath is actually screwed to this plate. So this is going to be a bit of a problem to get out. Alright, so it's become apparent that this plate here, when you have a look, it's split. This plate has to come out because this locks the board down below, which means we have to take this side cover here off. So we'll flip the printer over again, we'll undo the screws that keep this cover on, and we'll get this cover off, and that should get us access to releasing this piece here, which will then allow us to get the board out. Alright, so we got the printer over again. I'll take this screw out here. We're certainly getting a bit of an exercise going today. And we'll come around the back, pull the back door down, and then we'll have to pull that screw off there, which should then allow us to pull the side cover off. Open her up, undo that clip. There will be clips on the front in there. Go around the back. And there we have it, the side cover's off. And now we flip the printer over again. Alright, so as you're flipping the printer over, you will notice these little plastic clips will start coming off. These plastic clips reside in here to lock the high voltage circuit board in place. So if yours fall out, don't freak out, they simply go in like so, and they're held into position by that side cover that we just pulled off. So we'll just pull them all off just in case, and we'll put them back on during the assembly phase. Alright, so the next step is we have to get this cover off here that's locking it in, and it's held in by this Phillips head screw right here. So we will undo that Phillips head screw. And then this bit, it simply comes up and out. And there's our earth strap there. So we should then be able to just jiggle everything up. Everything should just simply come up and out, hopefully. So you want to be aware, this is the spring-loaded stopper which keeps the paper tray in, so as you're lifting it up you'll need to obviously push that out of the road. Obviously a lot easier doing it two-handed. And that's given us some clearance, and we can see underneath, getting access to the power board. So it's at this stage where we've managed to get it up a little bit. We can get our hand in there and we can simply undo the power connectors. Get a better shot. Grab those power connectors. Pull that out. Lift it up. And there is our faulty power board on this unit. Now I did accidentally drop the bit I didn't want to drop, the locking mechanism for the tray, so we'll have to go and find the wheel that's on there and flick that back on. Alright, so we've now got the power leads which are down clipped into here. It's just simply a matter of working them around. And that gives us access to everything, like so. And there's our power board out. I'll start doing some tests on it and see if we'll see if it's an over voltage scenario. Alright, so we've got the circuit board out and we've flipped it over. If you're replacing this board, it's actually a lot easier just to grab a soldering iron and just resolder the cables over here on one by one, because getting into the remainder of the body to get this plug out and the cables for the fuser unit it's just a right real pain in the butt. It's a job I do not enjoy doing one little bit. So I just take the quick route. I just simply unsolder the cables one by one and replace the board that way. So on this customer's machine, we've got the main fuse for the driving the heater lamp in the fuser assembly up inside. We've got the fuse unit which drives the actual power board itself. On this customer's machine we found this fuse is open, and I've just checked the diodes on the secondary side. There's usually a Xenia diode on the secondary side that fails. It goes short circuit, and I've had luck in the past simply by changing that Xenia diode, changing the main fuse, and the power supply comes back to life. And that's very common in the older generation Brother machines. The machine, especially if you're using non-genuine toners, the current draw from the main motor that spins the drums and the toners around, the current draw goes up, and that makes the Xenia on the secondary side fail, because too much current is being drawn, and that Xenia is only rated at, I think, about 1 amp. And the non-genuine toners make more than 1 amp being drawn, and that then obviously makes the Xenia go short circuit, which then in turn makes the main power fuse blow. But this is a bit of a weird one. Everything tests okay on this side, I've simply pulled the fuse out and replaced it, and this board seems to have come back to life and is working, so I'm just not tentatively saying that it's fixed in this case, so I'm just going to put it back together and we'll try the machine for a while. So I need to check the toner cartridges that this customer is using, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so it turns out that board is faulty. There is something shorted out on the secondary side. The board still kind of works though. It sits there with the main power LED blinking. So that board is possibly repairable, but we're just simply going to replace it with one I've got here. It's just simply a case of unsoldering each of the leads one by one, and then we'll reassemble the printer, and hopefully everything should work. Oh, and we're going to take a look at the toners and see what toners the customer's using. Alright, so we've got our board swapped over, we've soldered the connections on. Now it's just a matter of where we'll plug the cables back in and get that board in there. And let's fire it up and make sure it works. Alright, so we're just putting this board back in. You just got to make sure that these leads here go down and behind this clip that's in here. And then once you've managed to wrangle that in, you can then wrangle the board and just lock it into position. And then we can get this earth lead and we can tie this earth lead back on to that hole right there. Alright, so we've got the board back in. We're just making sure the earthing lead is on the panel. It's just a case of going through and putting all of the screws back in without dropping them in the body and damaging other things. I'll just finish putting those in and we'll be back in a minute. Alright, so all the screws are in. We've now just got to put the locking plate back on. Now, these prongs, I think, from memory, have to go under, like so. And then we'll just put it on there and we'll put a screw in there. So that's all in, that bottom's all on. So we'll flip it over and we'll put everything else back in, and we'll make sure that we will not lose that little peg in there. Oh, incidentally, I almost forgot the release tabs for the tray. I've obviously lost both wheels in pulling it off. So it turns out that with these little devices, you can stick a screwdriver in here if we get a different screwdriver. And we push that in. These are spring loaded. So we need to find some of those, and the spring should still be in there, or it will have fallen out as well. I didn't pay much attention then, so let's just have a look. Yep, so that's the spring arrangement. So that simply goes in. Goes up on the little hooky bit, like so. The spring goes in there on the back of it. And it simply goes up and in. So I'll do that two-handed. Alright, so everything's in, screwed in. We've got the slider rails replaced. It's now time to flip the machine over and start working on it upright. Alright, so everything's upright now. Next step is we're going to take this cover and put the cover back on. Simply a case of putting that edge in first, going over this side and pushing it right until it clicks, and it also has to click under this bit here. So that's locked in. We then have to move on to putting the locking tabs back in. And these simply go in like so. There may be different sizes of these. That one goes in there. Alright, so we've got our clips in. We just got to open the back door now, open the top cover, and then we shall put this cover back on. Alright, so now we've got that cover back on, we've got the printer back on its side, and now it's time to put the duplexing unit back on. You've got to make sure you've got your plastic engagement arm here, down in there. And then it's simply a case of getting the pegs up in here and up in there into position, and then you slide the unit to the right, and then it should just drop down into position like so. And then that arm down there will engage with the drive mechanism of the duplex unit. We put the two screws in here, and we put in that screw that goes over the cover plate that goes on there. And then we move on to testing it. Alright, so this gear mechanism here for the duplex, you've got to slide it into position like so, and once you've slidden it into position and locked it in, that's when you can put the cover plate back on it. Like that. So that cover plate actually behaves as a locking mechanism as well to lock the drive gear in. Alright, so we've got no consumables in the machine, the paper tray's not in, everything's screwed back together. Now we will take the power cord, and with any luck we will have a working printer. Yep. Excellent, so that printer's working, so we'll go and grab the consumables, chuck everything in and see what the machine does. Alright, so we've got the consumables back in the machine. It appears that this machine is still using the original toner cartridges that came with the machine, otherwise known as starter toner cartridges. So this customer has only replaced the black in this machine. This is a non-genuine black. So that's the label of the cartridge. I know these cartridges give problems, so I would avoid using these cartridges if I was you. I'm not advocating for you to use only genuine toners, but there are good non-genuine and there are bad quality non-genuine. So yeah, I don't know where we're at with this printer. We could have, it may be a case that the power board is blown up from rooftop solar. There's no obvious signs of any sort of mould growing on it. Although there is a bit of a pattern going on the surface of this circuit board, but I don't think that's mould. I think that's just the lacquer that they spray on it. But interestingly enough, when I put a new fuse in, it didn't blow. So this power board still has some life in it. I've just simply got to find which semiconductor. It's probably a Xenia diode somewhere on the secondary side that's failed. And unfortunately, with this new circuit board, unlike the old power board, they've used surface mount diodes, which makes it, for old people like me, it's just impossible to fix because we can't frickin' see. You know, the eyesight's not that good anymore and we can't see what's going on in here. So, and without a circuit diagram, I've pretty much got Buckley's chance of fixing this. So, I'll see if I can dig up a circuit diagram, and we'll go through it and see if I can actually fix this circuit board. But it still has some life in it, it still works. So, interesting. Alright, so I'll shut the lid, tap on the screen, printer comes back to life. Yeah, so that's the toner life. These are the original cartridges, this is the replacement. So this owner of this printer really hasn't gotten good value for money considering it's out of the warranty period. It's 4 months out of the warranty period, I think the guy said, from memory. Brother wouldn't repair it under warranty. And that's when I've got the phone call, can you come and help me with it? So I think that's pretty rotten, to tell yourself. If I was the company building it, I would fix this under warranty, that's for damn sure. If it was one of my customers, I would force it through under warranty. Yep, works perfect. Look at that, looks pretty good. So yeah, we ran out of sun today, unfortunately. And yeah, so if you're in the position where it's not the supercapacitor causing your printer to not turn on, it's actually a blown up power supply, you can head over to my website. We will be shipping these circuit boards worldwide. The price includes worldwide postage, but what you have to be aware of is you are dealing with line voltage. So American is 110, 120, Australia is 240, UK is EU is 230, I think, but you know, just beware. Make sure you unplug the unit at the back before you go working on it. And these little capacitors here, they can still hold charge. So even when this unit is not powered on, those two little capacitors there, if you touch it from the underside, you can get a DC electric shock. Gives you a bit of a kick, gives you a heart start, but it won't kill you, that's for sure. So anyway, that's it for today's video, replacing the power supply on a MFC-L3770cdw. I hope this helps out. If it has helped you out at fixing your printer, there is a link below that you can click to send me tips or gratitude for my help. Any amount is most appreciated. Thanks for watching.